Well, I just got married with 48 hours notice. I quit my great paying agency job. I'm selling my house and moving to Florida. Yeah, it's been a crazy bit of time, but I'm going to explain everything. First, I'm going to get changed. Cool. Later, but I think you guys got us in there. Let's go. Okay, I know I hit you with a lot there, and I will explain everything. Honestly, this video is probably more to get my friends and family up to date on everything that's going on because my life moves insanely fast. And well, this is no exception. This is actually the craziest set of things that have ever happened. Oh man, where do I begin? So I used to work at a really great agency. I helped build the team over the last couple of years. Employee count, I mean, there was a couple dozen of them. I mean, there was a good chunk of employees. Worked with some absolutely incredible clients. A lot of people in the automotive industry. Really want to thank AJ, the owner of the company, for everything he did for me and kind of give me that launching pad. And we had an absolute blast. But a few months ago, I decided to change jobs, and I will get into where I went in a little bit here. But essentially, I left this great agency job to pursue something different. Now, that something different happens to be down in Florida is their main office. Part of the agreement is that I needed to be in Florida a couple of days every month in order, as part of the contract. I need to be in office. I can do a lot of stuff remote. I've been working remote for years, but they want me down in Florida. Totally understand. It makes a lot of sense. With that, and with my crazy work schedule, I kind of started realizing that I was going to be away from home for approximately 150 days. So almost half the year I was going to be on the road, either travel days or days that I'm actually away, days I'm flying in, stuff like that. Let's say half the year I was going to be away from my family, and that's really, really tough. The other part of it is this kind of new arrangement, the amount of time that I was going to be spending down in the States, definitely started to blur the lines of what I could and couldn't do legally when it comes to going into the United States. So I needed to apply for basically a different process to allow me into the States. And this allowed me to get what's called an E1 visa. Essentially what an E1 visa is that I'm allowed to operate my business within the United States. I'm allowed to take contracts, allowed to be a contract worker, allowed to do a lot of different things. It's a really, really good visa because of that. Essentially, I can just take on contracts and do work. I can't be an employee, like an official employee, always as a contractor, but it does allow me to move down there. It allows me to, buy property. And this visa is good for 5 years. Now, a couple of caveats to it. I do need to come back to Canada at least once every 2 years to kind of renew, to prove that I have ties to the country. There's a bunch of stuff. It also allows my wife and my kids to be able to come down on a kind of a similar but different visa to be able to do the same stuff, register for school, change employment need be, all of that kind of stuff. It's been a long process. It's been a few months now. I know saying that doesn't always make sense because there are people who work for years to get visas, and I'm very, very lucky. Thankfully, I have an incredible accountant, and I was able to keep a lot of records to basically prove how much work I was doing with U.S. clients. It's a really kind of niche thing. If you do a lot of work in America, for American clients, not in America. If you're Canadian, you do a lot of work for American clients. It's a really, really good thing to apply for, even if you don't plan on moving to the U.S. So with that said, we kind of realized that, well, with me gone all the time, it might actually make sense to move to the U.S. One, to cut down on flights, to cut down on border crossings, cut down expenses like parking at the airport. Like there's a lot of stuff that started to make sense. Plus, Canada's inflation is pretty high. We started to do the exchange rate on a lot of different things. Obviously, living in Canada, being paid in American means that depending on the exchange rate, I'm making 36% more because the US dollar is worth at this time 36 cents more per dollar than the Canadian dollar. The problem with that is that Canada's inflation is actually higher than that in a lot of cases. It's not perfect one-to-one ratio, but we base it off of where we live or where we'd like to live. And kind of realized that living in Canada was not the best option. So started to kind of look and do all the math and figure out, even like things like groceries, even with the exchange rate, Doesn't make sense, especially with, I don't get 36. Usually get somewhere around 30 once you factor in banking fees and transfer fees and all that fun stuff. So yeah, that's kind of the position that we were at. I was taking work in Florida. I was going to have to travel there a bunch on top of obviously Formula Drift and the LZ World Tour. And I've got stuff lined up in Germany and possibly Norway and a bunch of other stuff. It's going to be gone a lot. So if we could cut down on that and cut down our cost of living, why wouldn't we? The other thing is that in Canada, our mortgage renews every 5 years. So every 5 years, you go back to the bank, kind of renegotiate your mortgage rate, which is great in some cases, pain in the ass in the others. If you leave that mortgage at the beginning of a new mortgage, you have to pay a bunch of penalties, so it can cost you a lot more money. Turns out my mortgage renewal is for the end of this month, as the 26th or 28th of June, I believe. I'm recording this on June 6th. So a lot of things started to line up very quickly. My work visa was accepted. I went in, did my interview. All of that went through just fine. The contract with the new job has been great. Absolutely love working with them. I've gone down a couple of times to visit, check out the facility and stuff like that, and it's gone really well. And I'm super stoked at what I'm going to be able to do with these teams. On top of that, like I said, Canada's inflation doesn't look like it's getting any better. We did actually drop our key interest rate yesterday, so it's a bit of a bump, actually going to help with selling the house. So my wife and I just made the decision that we were going to move. We were going to sell our house and move down to Florida. So that involves a lot of things. We have rented a bin. So there is now a giant garbage bin. We are throwing out a ton of stuff. We are selling other stuff. We are donating a lot. We are recycling a lot. We are just emptying out the house and realizing how much crap we have that we really don't need. So yeah, all of that is going on. My visa went through. We decided to do the visa separate. Mine first, so I could make sure I could continue back and forth to that office and start that process as quick as possible. And then Jess and the kids afterwards. So that way that process didn't slow down my process. And, just to make sure mine went through, then they can get there. It's a much easier situation. We are working with an incredible immigration lawyer and team. If you want that information, I'm happy to give it to you. They've been incredible. They've been very understanding. Obviously, it's the first time I've ever done this process for this visa. It's very confusing, involved a very deep dive into my personal life, my work life, a lot of things. So they've been great through that. So the point we were at earlier this week, and this is where a lot of the craziness happens. My work visa is in. I'm traveling back and forth. We're looking at the schedule. We'd love to be able to get the house listed and sold by the end of this month so we don't have to renew our mortgage, and we can kind of sell. Peak interest rate, or the interest rate comes down, which means house prices generally go up. So we're in this perfect storm of being able to move and sell, and everything is working really, really well. Until we get near the end of the paperwork when it comes to Jess and the kids. And the lawyer messages us and says, okay, we're almost there. All we need is your marriage certificate. Well, Jess and I have been together for 12 years, have 3 kids, 2 houses, dog. And it turns out we've never actually legally been married. We never did the ceremony. We never did the paperwork. And in the eyes of the U.S. government, just living together, being a common law marriage, as it's called, at least in Canada, not acceptable. So today is Thursday. We found this out on Tuesday. We need to get this process done as quickly as possible. Called the courthouse, booked in a wedding, and, well, we are now married officially as of about an hour ago. So this is part of that. I want to be able to tell my friends and family. My mother-in-law and father-in-law were able to come because they live in Windsor, where we are. I actually called my dad and my mom minutes before the ceremony to get them in on a basically like a Zoom call, Facebook call, so they could kind of witness that. Basically told them, hey, this is not like an official big ceremony wedding. This is something we just kind of had to do. My wife and I are both very... I'm trying to think of like the best way to explain it. This isn't a huge deal for us. For a lot of people, this might be devastating that they didn't get to have their wedding in front of everybody else. We've been putting off getting married for almost 10 years now. So for us, it's not a big deal. It was cool. We got to do it. Had some fun with our vows and stuff like that. But at the end of the day, we did it for the paperwork. As terrible as that sounds. We love each other very much, but we needed that marriage certificate in order for this all to go down. So we are now officially married. We are waiting on our marriage certificate to come in, which unfortunately could take up to 4 months, which is going to further complicate everything. My mom is on her way tomorrow to come help reno our entire house. The bin is here. We've thrown out a ton of stuff and, like I said, donated and recycled the rest. And we have one weekend to renovate our house to get it ready for sale because Monday the bin leaves and Tuesday the photographer shows up and Wednesday the house gets listed. So that is my life right now. And that is not including the Formula Drift podcast that obviously I host, the Iron Drift King podcast that I host, starting with this new company, having kind of my side company stuff going on, as well as attending all of the Formula Drift rounds. My wife has a job. Obviously, we have to get everything registered for the kids. All that stuff moved down. We have to get my son into hockey. We have to find a place. I've already moved one car down. We have to move two more. My life right now, hectic. That being said, would not have it any other way. My wife is incredible, and we're doing this whole thing together and actually having a lot of fun with it. We have always thrived under very stressful circumstances. We've worked in restaurants together. We have been through a lot. One day I will talk about all of it because it's been a lot over the last decade plus. So that's where I'm at right now. Yeah, like I said, this is as much information for my family and my friends to give them a heads up because this has all happened in the last 3 weeks. This has been very, very fast, and I haven't had a chance to tell everybody. So if you are friends and family, thank you. If you are fans of FD and you're here because of that stuff and all the drifting stuff, I really, really do appreciate the support. I'm still going to do my absolute best not to miss an upload when it comes to the podcast. I am releasing all the behind the scenes stuff that is going on. And I was going to say who I'm working for. I'm not going to do that this time. I apologize. I didn't mean it to be clickbait, but it's still very early. I don't want to get ahead of things. If you are smart and you know the industry, you can put this together, but I'm not going to, unfortunately, officially announce that right now. So yeah, you can put it together. It's not that hard to put it together. But we'll keep it on the DL for this time being. Yeah, I've said way too much, but thank you so much for watching. I'm going to edit this video and get this up right away so I can tell all my family and friends what's going on because, wow, my life right now is hectic. So thank you so much for watching. If you'd like to support me, you can buy a hat. I'll have links down in the description. You can buy it from FD, 144 Print House, or Tuner Society if you're in Canada. Save on the shipping. But yeah, that's it for right now. I got a lot to do, and catch you on the next one.